gentle sighing exhale, allowing yourself to begin to release any tension you're holding on to. Anything blocking you from being fully present in this moment. And reconnecting to that light. Seated above us. Allow yourself to feel that light wash over your body. Feel the warmth it provides as it shines down on you. And on your next inhale, invite that light inside, pulling it down through the crown of your head. Feel that light travel down your face, allowing each muscle it passes to soften, to release. Feel this light as it travels down toward your heart space. Feel this light as it begins to illuminate every area of your heart. Allow the light to begin to pulse, to move, and to vibrate within this space. Inviting the light into the places that may still be hidden in darkness. the places where suffering persists. Invite the light to join these spaces, to drive away the darkness. Invite the light to move. Sometimes when we're in the middle of the darkness and in the suffering, all that's needed is that simple invitation to invite the light in and to invite it to move. It will always overcome the darkness. We glory in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope. And hope does not put us to shame because God's love has been poured out into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. That light, that love poured out into our hearts. That hope lives inside of us, waiting to be accessed. Waiting to be invited to show up. I give everything to you, God. I give everything to you. I give everything to you, God. I give everything to you. Please join me. I give everything to you, God. I give everything to you. I give everything to you, God. I give everything to you. I give everything to you, God. I give everything to you. I give everything to you, God. I give everything to you. Sometimes in the midst of our suffering, all we need to do is give everything over to God. We can invite Him to turn our suffering into His glory. Beginning to bring some movement back into your fingers and your toes. Letting your eyes open whenever you feel ready. Inviting one more deep breath down into your heart space. And exhaling it out. As we prepare to receive our message today on persevering.
Thank you, Mary. We're going to use one of these today. I know. Sweet. Interesting sometimes for me to be like in meditation space and then come in and I'm having to engage a conceptual sequential order of things. So just being honest with you. It's good. It's good. Thank you. I love that line. Give everything to you, God. It's like the heart of surrender. Always is what I come back to. But we are continuing a series that we started. This is our first time doing like a series. Pretty interesting, for me at least. And yeah, it's been a good time just thinking through these things, having these conversations. But the title of this series, if you've not been here or tracking along, is called The Alchemy of Suffering. And what we're talking about here is the possibility for suffering to be transformed in our life, to use suffering in a way that leads us to hope. But what I think hope is a reflection of really is freedom, liberation, freedom from fear, freedom from our own inner preferences and aversions and all of the things that we tend to struggle with in life, all of the friction that happens. And so the alchemy of suffering is this intention and this hopefully this reality of being able to see that hope and freedom is possible. It's possible to experience. You know, we started last week this first element of suffering, and we talked about this first noble truth that the Buddha has, and that life is suffering. And that's where Paul starts as well in this little section that we're looking at in Romans 5. It begins with suffering. And the Four Noble Truths begin with suffering. But if you'll notice, that's where it begins. It's not just saying that's what it is, and then, well, have fun figuring it out, you know? It's saying, acknowledging that this is reality in our life, acknowledging that this is the state of where we tend to live in. And if we have moments of bliss or anything else, there's still this sort of gnawing thing deep within us, this unsatisfactory nature that seemingly we consistently deal with at the core of our being. But there is a possibility to make movements and steps forward from that. If hope and liberation was not a possibility, well, we wouldn't have the second and third noble truths and the fourth, which is the eightfold path, or Paul would have just stopped there and he said, life is suffering and deal with it till you die, you know? But he creates these movements, suffering, perseverance, character, and hope. Now, ultimately, freedom is the focus and the way of as a real reality for us. But some of us sometimes, at least me, I don't know, maybe I'm the only human around here, but you might find yourself in company with me. Sometimes I get lost in that state of suffering, feeling dismal, like there's no other potential way forward from this. And even, this is just coming to me, but, you know, Lindsay and I were just talking about, you know, a couple of years ago, it got really bad, like 2 and 3 years ago. And just that state of suffering, and I got to a point where I wasn't quite sure how, there was just no way. And I remember I was telling Lindsay, this is just dropping in, so we'll go with it. But I was on the phone with a company and you know, having to hash some things out, and there were some ways that I was having to be quite vulnerable. And you know, I always like speaking reality into existence, you know, but I had to kind of be honest about the state of where I was at and where things were. And this person was kind of, I don't know, I felt it was a little condescending in certain ways or whatever, but something just came over me. I wanted to defend myself and try to, like, you know, tell them all the ways that they aren't seeing it right and whatever, and getting frustrated on the phone with this representative. And something just like hit me, and it was just this, I was on a walk and I just noticed the blue sky for a minute, and I just realized there will be a day that this is in the history books. There'll be a different reality here. And there was no possible way that I could see realistically how things were going to shake down and work out. And they did. And here we are. And I'm sure it won't be the last, though, of situations like that. But you navigate it better each and every time. And so sometimes we can get stuck, though, in the suffering. But there is a way to move towards freedom and hope. But here's the thing. And this is where I think Paul is really hitting the nail on the head with perseverance. There has to be a decision that's made. There has to be a choice made from that place of suffering to hit microphones and do random things. There has to be that choice that's made. And sometimes it's hard for us to feel that choice to be made that's there because we can't see it. We can't see a pathway forward. We're fogged in our mind. We have just a mind-numbing sense of reality. We can't see this way forward. We're blinded by all of the ways of our pain and hardship. But there has to be a feeling, a decision that's made that there is a possibility to move forward. And this is what perseverance is really talking about. You may not be able to see, but there has to be this move forward, this action step forward. And sometimes in spirituality, we sometimes sit back and think we can just manifest our way energetically into whatever it is, big mansion, house, or car, whatever materialistic thing that, The Secret wants to tell you about. So I'm not bashing The Secret. I'm just saying that, the spiritual life is about engagement without attachment to these things. The ability to live and be in the fullness of who God is in you with the stuff or without it. Persevering through not to get something or to flee from something. That's the weird part. I'm not just trying to get away. I'm not trying to just escape the bad situation. I accept it. I'm not trying to grasp toward the ideal either. If that comes, great. If not, I'm still going to be me in this body whenever that day comes. So whatever newness will wear off eventually. And that decision to act without attachment is that action movement of perseverance. And sometimes, again, spirituality, we are supposed to meditate and come into the energy of awareness, but then move in a particular way in the world. Act in a particular way. Give energy in certain ways as we actually live life. There was a season of time where I just thought I should seclude myself more. I need more silence. I need more of this. And yes, I did need that, but it's the yin and the yang. I needed to be actively out there knocking on doors and doing things and making life happen as well. And it's this perseverant posture that happens within us. And so this verse in Romans 5, the translation that we're looking at says perseverance, but there's another version that says endurance. And I got to admit, I don't like that version. That's why we're not using it. Because endurance to me feels like enduring it. You know what I mean? Like, I'll put up with it, I suppose, until it's over and I'm on to something better than this, whatever, And maybe it could be good. As I'm sitting here, my mind's like thinking about all the other angles. I'm like, what about an endurance runner? Like, that's a good image, But it can be. But there is something about perseverance that I think is unique. It has a sort of energy behind it. It's like, I'm going to get up off the couch and do something today. It's an action, putting into motion what that is. And so I don't like the word endurance for that reason. If you like endurance, that's awesome, and you probably have really great reasons why you prefer it. For me, it's not about just putting up with life. It's not just about putting up with the suffering until it's gone. It's about moving intentionally through the obstacle of whatever it is. Acknowledging that obstacles are a part of life. That's essentially what we're talking about with suffering. There's these obstacles, these things. You're like, God, if this obstacle just wasn't in my life, it would be better. Maybe that's true. But maybe who are you becoming through the middle of it all? Dude. The guy right there. And Patrick too. And so, who am I becoming through this? And what's the invitation of release through this act of perseverance? And so to me, I think we'll talk about some other stuff in a moment. But I would love to talk about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane for a moment. Because whenever I was thinking about this, there's some other moments that popped up for me. And I was talking with Mary. We voice text back and forth, just kind of getting stuff squared away for Sunday. And I was like, I just keep coming back to this scene in the Garden of Gethsemane with Jesus. And I feel like it's a really appropriate image. And even within my own self, I had to be like, why am I not wanting to talk about this? What is that here, you know? And I just felt like whatever it is that was working through me, it was like, you know, sometimes you just have to trust what the prompting is without always knowing. And so that was the prompting. And I would like to read you the actual passage from the Bible today. And as I read this to you, he said, perfect timing. He said, can't we just stick with the spiritual stuff, dude? Maybe he saw the version. Uh-oh. Oh, dude. Don't get me started on the version thing. I used to be so arrogant with that stuff, you guys. I would only read the ESV, the elect standard version, because I was the elect and everyone else was going to hell. Because I believed the right things that were concepts developed in the 1600s. And you didn't. So I know something you don't know. God likes me more. Take it up with him. I'm just saying. You know, I get it. People are still illiterate even to this day, but you got to be able to read the thing in order to be saved. No, I don't know what to do with all the illiterate people. I don't know what to do with the fact that this thing didn't even come into its final form until hundreds of years after any of the life of Jesus or the apostles. But I'll digress and leave all of that to 𝒅𝒕𝒂𝒄𝒉𝒎𝒆𝒏𝒕. If you want to search him and get some real scholarship, there you go, 𝒅𝒕𝒂𝒄𝒉𝒎𝒆𝒏𝒕. Nonetheless, I know, right? Versions do, now I'm on this. We're talking about Bible versions now. I'm going to talk about this for a quick second. Is that okay if I just follow this for a minute? Okay, so this past week, I met with someone who's been coming to the current community, and they shared with me about their fascination and obsession with vintage old Bibles. I mean, he has old Bibles that are in German from 1700s and stuff. And it was fascinating. He was telling me about them. And then I took a picture, because then he said, hey, before we go over to this place to grab a drink, can I grab something out of my car? I said, sure. He grabs a huge tote. He brought all the Bibles with him on this past week. And we sit down, and there's a picture. If you want to see, I'll show it to you. I had to take a picture of this. I'm like, dude, we're at this place. Old Bibles all over this table. And he's showing me systematically how different versions with different people and how everything came to be. And I'm like, this is brilliant. This is fascinating, And, but I've not really thought about Bible versions in many years. I'll admit, I've not really considered that. But the NRSV is, if you're interested in diving into this thing, I recommend the NRSV for a bunch of different reasons that I won't bore you with now. But check that out, and it should be pretty helpful for you. But I was sitting there, and I'm like, dude, people are all looking at us too, around. And that's the moment you got to be like, we promise we're not like the people you're thinking we are right now. Now I'm it's this whole inner game of how am I perceived in the eyes of people with a, table full of books at a lunch spot on Tuesday. So I'll read you this passage. So this is Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. And when I'm thinking about perseverance, and I'm thinking about this active way of living and moving in life, not passive, but an active way of moving through the obstacles of suffering. And I think about Jesus in this place. To give you a little backdrop, if you're not familiar with the narrative of the Gospels, but Jesus is just with his closest disciples in the upper room, and he's predicting his own betrayal, and he knows where all of this is going. He's pissed off enough people to know how this ends. And some people that are well-meaning, they say, well, he was God, so he just kind of knew how everything was going to shake down. He didn't have any idea in that moment. Later on, there's a whole nother thing. This is nerdy stuff, but this idea, was Jesus fully God? Was he fully man? Was he kind of God? Was he kind of not? And the conclusion that the Orthodox view came to, which literally means the straight view, the straight opinion, that's still agreed upon today, is that Jesus was 100% man and 100% God. So if he's 100% man, that means it feels kind of like how we feel sitting here right now. Human, fully human. And I think what made Jesus divine in this moment is what we'll read in just a moment here. But we have to remember before it that he was a human who didn't really know exactly how all this was about to shake down, but he knew it wasn't good by this point. And Judas leaves, the Last Supper scene, and then Jesus goes and he prays in the Garden of Gethsemane. And we'll read the version from Mark as well as the version from Luke because there's some nuance there. But just take this in for a moment, and then we'll chat about what makes this human and divine. It says, they went to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." He took with him Peter, James, and John, and began to be distressed and agitated. Been there. And he said to them, "I'm deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and keep awake." And going a little farther, he threw himself on the ground and prayed that if it were possible, that the hour might pass from him. He said, "Abba, Father, for you all things are possible. Remove this cup from me. Yet, not what I want, but what you want." He came and found them sleeping, and he said to Peter, "Simon, are you asleep? Could you not keep awake 1 hour? Keep awake and pray that you might not come into the time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." And again he went to pray and prayed the same words. And once more he came and found them sleeping. Their eyes were heavy, and they did not know what to say to him. And he came a third time and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? Enough. The hour has come. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let us be going. My betrayer is at hand." And I think about in my own experience of life, there's a lot of words that are being pulled up there that I feel deeply on a human level. We're talking about anguish. We're talking about being agitated and distressed. And he's going into this space of prayer, and he's showing us what it means to ask for something to be removed from us. God, please, could this situation please go away? And that's the humanity piece. He didn't know how all this was going to shake down. He didn't know what was actually going to be fully taking place ahead of him. He had a pretty good idea of what they do with people who go against the powers that be. But there was still this open-ended, step-by-step scene that's taking place. But then the 100% divinity comes in when he says, "Not my will, but yours be done. Not what I want, but what you want be done." And that invitation's to each and every one of us. We all have the invitation to live into the same way of being that Jesus of Nazareth did. He came here to show you the way. This is how you live and move and operate. You can function fully in your humanity and in your divinity. This is a spiritual reality that also takes place in a very material way. And the way that that takes shape and form is acknowledging through the pain, suffering, and hardships of life, we operate from a spiritual vantage point of seeing somehow, some way, I don't know how it shakes down, but I trust it. I accept it. There's a deeper purpose happening here. And he didn't say, I know the deeper purpose is that one day I'm going to talk to Paul when I'm in some other dimension of atmosphere and create this systematic theology about the blood that covers sins of people. He didn't know about any of that. He said, I'm going to my death, and that's all right. There's an acceptance about that because there's a trust with Abba, Father, in that moment. There's an intimacy with that. There's a, okay, I get it. All right. This is difficult. This sucks. This is hard. But there's a deep inner knowing that this is the right path. And some of us have gone through some really dark times. And if we can realize and recognize back in those moments there was something there that was still pulling us along. And that's what I love about in the other version of Luke. He prays, and there's a little insert. There's a couple little in parentheses, which means this was probably a footnote on the side or a margin that somehow made its way into being actual scripture. Again, that's another scholarship nerdy thing for a different time. But in Luke, great name, by the way, there's a little parentheses here, and he does the same passage. He says, he came out and went, as was his custom, to the Mount of Olives. So apparently he went there a lot, if that was his custom. And his disciples followed him. When he reached the place, he said to them, "Pray that you may not come into the time of trial." Then he withdrew from them about a stone's throw, very accurate, knelt down and prayed. This is my favorite. "Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me." If you are willing. Then an angel came from heaven, appeared to him, and gave him strength. And his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down on the ground. And when he got up from prayer, he came to the disciples and found them sleeping because of grief. And he said to them, "Why are you sleeping? Get up and pray that you may not come into the time of trial." Sometimes it's easy to just go to sleep in our sufferings. Just completely play into the delusion of whatever's happening. It's like, yeah, fine, sure. I'll play the games. Remember, there's times in my life where, even with work stuff or whatever, and you kind of see everybody playing the little game, and you put the little, you do the thing, and you act, and you get the professional voice when you're making outbound calls and all that. And you're just like, I just go to sleep. You know what I mean? Inside, like, yeah, sure, I'll play the games of the world. Fine. It's tempting to go to sleep in this dream that we call life. But there's a spiritual invitation to wake up. Wake up to reality and to pray. Not this like very much prayer in terms of constant words, but prayer as the position in the presence of God's presence in us, in our hearts, that we might follow in the footsteps, not my will, but yours be done, as we pray this prayer. And what I like about this added version is, and angels came to help him. I'll take that. I don't know where you're at with the whole celestial thing or angelic. I don't know either, man. I grew up charismatic, so I kind of have a little bit of that going on in the background. Like, there's always kind of these like angel and demon fights happening in the unseen, and then there's always the weird lady at church that somehow can see it all and worship, You're like, my God. And the language they speak is far out. We call that tongues. So, hey, everything belongs in some way, shape, or form. And I'll take that help. You know what I mean? I'll take the help. Angels, hey, if you're there, bring help. I'll bring. And it says that they came and ministered to him. It's the only version that it says that. But ultimately what Jesus did in that moment, and I love, he says, if you are willing, this is where we'll kind of link this back, the second noble truth. I love talking about Jesus because how real it is. It's like there's this, I talk about Buddha and things, it helps me sort out my mind in such a practical way. 8 noble truths. It's like, think right, speak right, act right, live right. It's like, yeah, I can get that. It's practical. It's good. I love it. Gets my mind straight. I need that organization. But then there's a spiritual dimension that I feel like I can only get so far in that. And I think this really helps bring that realness and rawness out of life. I mean, talking about a guy who, metaphorical of course, but sweating drops of blood, dude, I can get with somebody who shows me the way like that. You know what I mean? I can understand what that feels like metaphorically, to be sweating drops of blood and pain and anguish and all of that. Now, I didn't go get nailed to a Roman cross, somebody made a bad comment on the YouTube channel or something. I'm just kidding. It's our modern day crucifixion. I'm going to get him on behind my username. If you turn off the internet too, it doesn't really exist. It's like, oh, I was quite taken there for a minute. Oh, wow. Okay. reality here. But the difference between will and desire, we'll land this plane with some of this, because the second noble truth is about desire. And what the Buddha starts talking about is suffering. There's the suffering that's happening, and the reason that it happens is because you have desire. Now, we hear that, and we're like, isn't it good to desire things? And it's like, yeah, this is another thing where it's like, you have to understand, you're talking about old languages from other cultures on the other side of the world. Let's translate this stuff a little bit to us. We understand this more as craving or thirst. That feeling of like, oh God, I'm just craving that. I was walking with a friend, and I'm like, I have to walk on the other side of handles right now because I might give in. Craving, thirst, desire. Oh God, for the love. I mean, give me a break. Graham cracker ice cream? Yeah, of course, I'm hooked. Graham Central Station, shout out. It's this thirst, this craving, this desire, this itching inside of you for whatever it is that you think you need or not, getting away from the suffering. But will is something unique from desire, I think. That's a helpful way. Will is something that comes from an energy within you. It's this well of living water that brings energy out of you, and you begin to align everything in your life according to this will. That's why Jesus says, if you are willing, let this cup pass for you, but not my will, but yours be done. He was showing his desire for this situation to go away. He was craving, God, if there's another way, then go excruciating on the cross. Let me go that way. But the will that comes out allows us to be able to operate in and through life with all of it as it is, not craving to get away from it, not trying to escape it, but embodying who God is being shaped in us and through us through this process of whatever it might be. It's this will that we align with in our life. But perseverance is not this thing. I think of perseverance, and sometimes I think of this like forceful, like, yeah, I'm at the gym making life happen, strong-arming it. That's not perseverance. Perseverance has a sense of being relaxed, but focused. It's focused, it's intentional, it's purposeful, but it's not rushed. It's not frantic. It's not scattered. Big time. It's focused, consistent movement in tune with the will of God in our life. And what I learned in my own life is desire will make me scramble and frantic, and I deal with not being productive enough, so I sit down, like we were talking about, I sit down for 10 minutes and whatever, and my back of my mind, I'm just like, you should. I'm like, God, the should stinks. And it's like, I need to get out of here. Will is something different entirely. And I'll land the plane with this incredible lyric. Thank you for joining me on this today. I had so many things about this, and I'm like, Lord, just help me kind of string it in the right way that it's supposed to come out. And it's good. But perseverance, I like that. I think the reason in high school, whenever I read that verse, that perseverance stuck with me, is because I really liked this band called Hatebreed. And despite their name, they're quite positive and encouraging. Positive, encouraging, Hatebreed. I know. You can't make this stuff up. And I'd listen to Hatebreed, and I'd wear a Hatebreed t-shirt or whatever as the pastor's kid to church, and people, they didn't know what to do with me. Totally. I went to pastor's conferences. I had an Insane Clown Posse t-shirt on one time. And it was like, people they didn't know what to do. They're like, okay, are they Christian? It's the only thing evangelicals know how to do. Is it Christian? Is it Christian? Is it Christian? I digress. I'm not talking. That was wrong. I repent in real time. I shouldn't. No. We accept it all. But Hatebreed has this album called Perseverance. And so whenever I first heard it, I'm like, oh, Perseverance, this song immediately came in my head because I just went to Ozfest and saw them this last year. Great. But the lyrics of this song, Perseverance, I'm talking about Jamie Josta, the lead vocalist Hatebreed in church. That's pretty rad, not going to lie. Saint Josta. I I'd like to read you the lyrics as we close. Is that all right? I'm going to read you this lyrics, and you're going to be like, I'm going to go try to listen to that song. You're going to be like, yikes. 2002, by the way, who's with me? 2002 is not that long ago, right? So the lyrics of this song, Perseverance, sum up essentially everything that I hope to communicate to you today, and especially even tying this to the life of Jesus. He says, I know your fear of loss and your struggles with faith and how it takes everything that you have just to face the day. The virtues you possess now bring you eternal pain. All you have is contempt for a life you can't obtain. All your heroes have failed you, yet you've tried to prevail. Face your torment and dismantle your doubt. Refuse this legacy of shame and deceit, because the only real truth that you know in your life that you know is hostility. Your world is falling apart. Remain steadfast. Perseverance against all opposition, crushing all limitations. That's kind of the hardcore part. Pure strength through solitude, discipline, and determination. You can't accept what you've been told. Anchored in sin, you must reverse your descent. Declare the weight of the world has yet to claim you, and admit that your faults will not restrain you. Glimpses of fate bring light to your despair. Realize hope isn't short of your grasp. Resurrect every dream that you've buried alive, and never succumb to the war that you fight. Your world is coming apart. Remain steadfast. Perseverance against all opposition, crushing all limitations, pure strength through solitude, discipline, and determination. And for a guy to write this who is not Christian in any way, shape, or form, one of their albums is quite against it, by the way. So I can't recommend all of them, I guess, but I still dig it. There's some of those lines that I just feel like are so relevant for us today. And so as we close, what my hope is that you make this decision to move towards freedom in your suffering, that you begin to act in a way that there is possibility for the future, that hope is at your hands, that it isn't something that you are needing to grasp for, it's something you already have, or just digging down in to realize that that's already true inside of you. So with that, let's stand and pray. And I just want to invite the power of the presence to be in our hearts as we move from this space. So if you join me in praying, you can feel free to open your hands if you feel like that's inviting to receive a gift. And we just ask right now, God, that you would bring your presence into our life. We open ourselves up. And whatever suffering we might be going through right now, I pray right now for the will of the heart, that the spirit is willing, but the flesh can be weak, that the part of us that sometimes gets lost in the illusion of this reality, help wake us up. God, help wake us up to the possibility of what it means to move forward, that there is a way. And even as we go through this week, I just ask for opportunities for us to become mindful of the ways that we can actually act differently in the world, that we can have right speech, that we can have right action, that we can have right livelihood, we can have right understanding, and that our concentration and our focus as we move throughout this week would be fueled by the presence of God in us and through us. Thank you for this space. And as we re-engage our lives, may in some way we be transformed. Deeper realizations of wholeness, deeper postures of freedom, and that we would know that freedom and hope is ours. It's possible. So may the Lord bless us, may He keep us, may His face shine upon us and give us grace and peace and make us a light of love as we move from this space into every aspect of our lives. So be it. Amen. So as we close today, just want to encourage you, this sets us up for next time. We're going to be talking about character and the shaping of character in our life. That's really the where this is moving towards. And in the meantime, though, say hello to someone, meet someone new, or not, or catch up with someone, or whatever you want to do. Don't let me tell you what to do. But if you're here, the odds are is that someone else is feeling that same sort of tug that you are as well. And find a time to get together. And if you are interested in leading or hosting a group or have an idea, please get in touch with me, because we're wanting to get a proper calendar thrown up for everybody to be able to see and to participate in, because it's about community as we are on this path together. So have a wonderful day, friends. See you in 2 weeks